Hey guys, if you just joined us on Facebook, we are graced tonight by the presence of Ben Lloyd, who's a fantastic athlete, very excited about and Stan Madiri. So, hey guys, how are you both?
Hiya. Hello.
Hello.
Brilliant. So Ben, thank you very much for joining us. How have you been finding lockdown?
It's been good. It's been an opportunity to be productive and it's been the challenge has been trying to stay productive. So I've had to really focus and do lots of different things. So it's been good.
Now you were just saying you're going traveling. Where are you supposed to be going to?
Well, I was meant to go traveling because I'm on a gap year. So I was going to go to Southeast Asia for a few months. But obviously that was cancelled. So I've refocused to get in that way as well. So now I'm just here.
Just here. You said you're reading. So what's your top reading book at the moment? What are you reading?
Well, I've been reading. I've been burning through the Lord of the Rings because I'm trying to. I'm trying to watch all of the films, but I don't watch the films without reading the books. And I've been doing a couple of history books because that's my university course next year. So
did you find they were very different, the books versus the films?
The books are more detailed, as always, but the films are really good. The films are really, really good. So they're comparable quality.
Which is your favorite?
Well, I've not watched the last one, and I don't know what happens in the last one yet. So I'm trying to avoid any kind of
I won't bring it up then. I won't bring it up. But it is pretty good. You need to watch it. Really. Excellent. Good stuff. Good. So we're joined by Ben Lloyd tonight, who's going to tell us what it's like to be a top junior athlete. So Ben, tell us about yourself. What's your background in your athletics? I know you've been awarded some amazing accolades in terms of what you've achieved in your athletic career so far, but what's it like to be a top junior athlete?
So I was I started athletics when I was around 12 or 13. And it was through playing football and rugby at school, and I noticed like PE teachers and coaches noticed that I had a particular athletic talent. And I wasn't so good with balls or anything like that. I was good at the running after the balls. So I just went down to my local athletics club. And I kind of just did it quite casually, and I just found myself I got quite good. And in 2015, I went to English schools just as an under 15 and thought nothing of it. I was just doing it for enjoyment, and I didn't expect to do anything. I was just going for the fun, and I ended up getting a silver medal in
just
triple
jump.
Yeah, it was really it was really strange, and I did it in triple jump, which was the most random of events. And then the next season, I wanted to go onto the track. So I did the 400-meter hurdles, and I did my first ever race. And Stan was my coach, and I literally just did it with no practice, nothing. And I found myself, after it was one race where I got the national standard in my third ever race, and I thought, well, this is a bit freaky, and it just went down. My price went down and down and down. So I got to English schools that year as the favourite to win it, whereas the year before I'd gone as a nothing, and now I was on the track and I was favourite, and I was the lower end of my age category, and I just won it, and then got a silver medal at nationals that year. Got a silver medal at international schools that year. And then the next year, I was the upper end, and I won everything: nationals, international schools, UK school games, and English schools. And I was UK #1 and in the top 10 all time. And it was just really random how it came on. I guess it just fell into my hands. But to specifically with the question, my experiences. First and foremost, it's really fun. I think that there are tough sides to it, but it is really, really fun. And I look back at a lot of when I was younger, kind of leaving, going after school to training, and you forget all of the tirednesses and the wariness, and and I look back at those track sessions and I enjoy it. Sort of in the winter when the sun's gone down at 4:30 and it's really dark and it's cold, but you're lying on the track and you've just done a rep, And I used to love that feeling. And you make so many good friends as well. That's the best thing about a junior. When you go on trips away with each other and the team, it's like a school trip with your friends, and it's great fun. There's a lot of hard work involved and compromise, especially the ages when you're sort of year 10, when people start, your friends and your peers start kind of doing sort of drinking and stuff like that, going to parties. People start going to bed at 3 a.m. And you start having pressures in school and then peer pressures in your social life. And it's quite hard to stick to a routine. Do
you feel like you missed out on some of that, Ben?
I think you don't have to miss out. I think I did. I think I did. But I look back and I think that the learning process is learning that you don't necessarily have to. And you don't have to be as harsh on yourself, and you can learn to kind of be more flexible. Ultimately, you have to learn when to say no and when no is needed. But definitely, you don't have to miss out on things. And there's also what you're missing out on. You can experience, like getting drunk in a field is. I used to think that's not something I was particularly that interested in. You can do that like whenever. But you can only do athletics at this moment in time. I remember I was at a competition, and one of my close friends who did 400 hurdles, and she's like my female counterpart. She said to me, I just want to quit. I just want to be like a normal girl, be with my friends and just enjoy it. And I said to her, anyone can do that. Absolutely anyone can quit and do that. But you are in a really unique position in what you're doing. And in years to come, what would you rather have done?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think that's certainly look at people that are successful in business and life. It's a very similar story, isn't it? That they sacrifice the moment in time for the long term, and it's about putting up with what other people won't do. Because I think it's much easier to give up, right? Much easier to give up, and many people do. And I think that's probably what helps the top get to the top in terms of what they want to achieve and what their ambition is. But I think you touched on a couple of interesting elements there. I think one is discipline. How important is discipline, and where do you get that discipline from? Because it's easy to say that it's from your parents and your the social circles and stuff that you're in. Where would you say yours comes from?
I think mine has changed as I've grown up. It has massively changed, and that's one thing as a junior athlete that you have to have in mind. That your motivations and everything about you changes. Your body, your mind, your motivations. And so I started off, it was just for fun, and then I became intrinsically very motivated. I wanted to do it for me, and I wanted to see how far I could push myself. And I think that's what you need to be a successful junior athlete. I think fundamentally is an intrinsic motivation, because you can be pushed from the outside as much like endlessly, and while for some people they might get quite far, but the only time you'll ever reach your full potential is if you are intrinsically motivated and you want to do it yourself, because it's just not going to work. You have to want to say no when someone asks you, oh, do you want to come to this party? It's otherwise it's unsustainable.
Do you think it's possible to create intrinsic motivation in young athletes? Because I think that's there's the extrinsic motivation, which is like stick and carrot. So, Johnny, you've got to go out and run. It's good for you. It's good for you. That kind of discipline, which is external. And then there's like, Johnny, you've got to get out and run because you're really good at it, and you're going to do really well if you keep going at that. And there's going to be loads of rewards at the end of that. So that would be external, but carrot. Where do you think the intrinsic motivation comes from? Because it's an interesting question that we've had in our team about trying to create that with patients, because it's the same thing with a patient that wants to get better, isn't it? They need to really be intrinsic motivated and want to get better. But Where do you think it comes from in young athletes?
I think there is a place for extrinsic motivation, and I think it has an influence on intrinsically motivating you as well. I think you need a bit of both. So I certainly know that sort of what catalyzed my own motivation was the thought of going to events with a team, getting on buses, flying to different countries, and wearing kit and representing the country and things like that. And that definitely served as a catalyst. But from there, I developed I wanted to do it for me. And so the way that I became intrinsically motivated was, I guess, through external motivators. And it was my own external motivators that I wanted for me. It wasn't my mum saying, I want this for you, or someone else saying, I want this for you. I saw something that externally motivated me, and I wanted to get it. And then I developed an intrinsic motivation. Okay, I want to do this to see how far I can push myself and to succeed for myself.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I think maybe what you're describing there is that those extrinsic things made you feel proud because you were able to accomplish that off your own back as well. But do you do it to win the races, or do you do it because it makes you feel good?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't do it to win. I think
because you're an athlete, you're a winner.
Yeah, it ultimately, I mean, because that would be saying sort of, would you be happy if you came second? And you wouldn't. You could. I was very, very happy when I got my silver medal in triple jump. I was doing just to take part, and it was for fun. And I would have been happy coming 5th or 6th. But the fact that I got a medal, not once did I ever think why is this not gold? So that was just purely for fun. And I guess that is intrinsic motivation at its core, which is why you should always enjoy and love what you're doing. You're doing it for fun. But I definitely did, as I progressed, there was more that I want to win, and I want that feeling of winning for me, like crossing the line in first, and sort of, that's what I wanted.
It's that goosebumps moment. But Ben, it sounds like this intrinsic motivation not only is part of your athletics, but it also crosses over into other aspects as well. Because you were saying that you're supposed to be on a gap year in lockdown, and you're still reading history books.
Yeah, I think
you've got to be dedicated to be reading history books, right? Because you're doing history as your A levels, your university, right?
Yeah. So I think this is one thing. Athletics definitely built up a character in me that always strives to, in many ways, overperform, and that has to be watched. It definitely has to be
watch it out of interest, because that's it's interesting. You're very emotionally aware that you'll need to watch that, but where's that come from? Have you had issues there before? You can see other people that have had issues, or you've been warned about it?
Yeah, no, I have. I've had I've struggled with sort of putting too much emphasis, too much pressure on myself and wanting too much from myself. And I've noticed a lot of my friends from athletics are very similar. There tends to be quite a lot of perfectionism, and often they won't. Your very being is pushing yourself to be the best that you can on the track. So when you go into school, why would you not push yourself in that same way? It's kind of very ingrained in you. This doesn't apply to everyone, but for myself, I definitely ended up having lots and lots of different pressures on. I was wanting to do this with athletics, and then I was applying to Oxford, which was where I'm going. And then I also wanted to do lots of work experience, and I ended up pushing myself and stretching myself quite thin and putting a lot of strain on myself, which has made the last few years actually quite difficult, especially around A levels, which was just very, very intense.
Yeah, I bet it was. How did you learn to juggle things? Because that's a skill in itself at your age to be able to, well, at any age. So I shouldn't be ageist, but
Sorry.
spend social life kicking in there.
Yeah, I didn't know that was going to happen.
No worries, but how do you manage that pressure? Because that's as a young athlete coming into like the adult scene and certainly going through that transition, it's probably the graveyard of champions, isn't it? You probably see a lot of your high performance colleagues that kind of drop off at that level because it's a tricky skill, isn't it? Juggling the pressures of social life, track, and academia as well.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said I can juggle it. I struggle a lot. I really do. Especially my academic life is very intense, and I know that where I'm going next year, it's only going to get more intense. So I do struggle. I really do struggle, and I try my best to manage it. But when you factor, I don't have time. Like I barely had time for a social life when I was sort of during athletics season and training, and then academics. But it's really difficult. You have to compromise. You have to compromise somewhere. And sadly, sometimes it's the hard thing is finding the balance because you need all three. I mean, you need a social life for your mental well-being. You need friends and you need support. And how to balance? I wish I knew how to balance it. Actually, I just get stressed.
It sounds like you did a good job. A gap year sounds like it's exactly what the doctor ordered for your well-being and just being able to experience life in the world as well.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. It's definitely been very, very beneficial to me. And another thing that I would say maybe helps balance it is it's kind of setting clear goals for yourself and looking and choosing where you want to go wisely. For some athletes, that might be going over to say America. One of my closest friends has gone there and has thrived and loved it. Some have gone there and it's not gone well. So understanding that it's not a one size fits all approach, and that you've got to be very pragmatic and flexible and set goals for yourself and know where you're going and know where you've been, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, excellent. Now, just talking about where you've been, Ben, you've been to some amazing places, haven't you? So English schools and international schools, 400 meter hurdles. How did you prepare yourself to win not one but both of them? Because that's a significant achievement.
Yeah. So in the long term, it was goal setting, just being ambitious. The first time I won English schools, I in the long term, it was never really a goal, but as soon as I got a whiff of that I could win it, it became very firmly planted in my mind. And it's the thing. It's a lot of sort of daydreaming, imagining the race, imagining getting excited, and wanting to win. And then training, obviously, good training with a good coach, not overdoing it, making sure you're in great physical form. I think your physical state is in the long run in very important preparation. And then I would say in the short run, like in the days before or the week or two before, there's not much more physical preparation. You can finalize things, but you're not going to change. You're not going to in 2 weeks become extremely fit and just from nothing. So it's mental preparation is really, really key for me. Managing my mind.
It's good that you identify that, because I think that's something that that only really comes about like in later life, really, that awareness of mental preparation. But Stan, I know you're very involved with Ben's development, but how do you prepare athletes from a mental point of view for that high level performance?
It's like any other skill, for me, mental fortitude is a skill. It's something that has got to be learned. And yes, other people acquire it, just from experiential living, but I think it is better, with young athletes, it's best to be deliberate with it in the same manner that you are deliberate with their physical development. You've got also to be deliberate with their mental and emotional development alongside the challenges that you're providing them, in training and in competition. Otherwise, if that side of their faculties is left unattended to, it just makes it very difficult for them to meet their physical goals, their running goals, because the mindset and the emotional, content is not available to help them to acquire that. And so with Ben, and he's mentioned that a lot. Goal setting was one of the big things that we did. I remember him coming to me and say, "What do you want to do? First, you tell me what it is that you want to achieve." And when he said, "I want to win English schools," I said, "Do you know what amount of work that demands?" So it's from that goal that the whole mindset was set regarding the amount of work that he needs to do. Now, track and field is difficult. Any event is difficult. But I tell you what, Steve, 400-meter hurdles is one of the most difficult track events. That takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of plenty hours to put in. And for this young man to be out there on the track on a one-to-one coaching, 3 nights sometimes, 4 nights a week, and a Saturday morning, as he says there, sometimes missing out on what his peers will be doing. That can only be possible if the athlete has got a mental backup to it. They've got something from their own inside, as well as a mindset that is prepared, or that's able to drive them to be able to meet that such training and performance programs.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. So Ben, what do you think your come on, just tell us the truth. How much did it cost you to bribe the judges to give you a bit of a head start for English and international school 400-meter? We've heard how hard it is. You look like a pretty relaxed kind of guy, but I don't believe someone as relaxed as you and, like, say, focused would be able to win it. But tell us, what's your secret?
I'm not relaxed. I'm sure I would say.
You seem chill. Look at that.
I put on a good front. But the amount of times, Stan, it helped with my mentality so much, because I always used to say, I've got this worry, I've got this anxiety, I've got this, I'm worried about this, and I would used to jump from worry to worry. And Stan was he calmed, and he allowed me to process my thoughts, and he really helped my mental development so much. I remember we divided the thoughts into, I think it was your crocodile brain, so your deep sort of id, say an id as Freud would call it, and then sort of managing what that is telling you. And that's how I overcame a lot of my stresses, because I get very, very stressed. That's
very interesting. So it's just mostly management of that the crocodile reptilian brain. There's kind of primitive thoughts that you thought was this main secret.
They come out. They come all the time. Managing them, and also knowing sometimes there is a place for them. I think they're not there for nothing, and sometimes a bit of nerves, a bit of an adrenaline on the start line. It can be used, and you can use it for great things, but sometimes they can be very, very controlling and damaging.
Do you think the fact that you're aware of them made you be able to conquer them, as far as managing them and knowing when was a good time to have them and when there was not a good time to have them? Because I guess when you're on the start line, you don't have all these thoughts racing through your head, but actually when you're in the race, using the energy that you're going to get from that, and that excitement actually helps you with some of the difficult times in the race, I imagine.
Yeah, I think, as with everything, it's a bit of both. Could you repeat what?
So just saying, when did you find it was useful to have those?
When did I find it was useful?
Yeah, how did you use them? It's probably a better way.
How do I use them? Sort of. Well, the adrenaline and the nerves. There's nothing like it. It's so addictive. It's the thing. Speaking of in sort of an intrinsic motivation, that at the time you feel sick. And it's quite it can be quite unpleasant. But when you're in that room and you are on this massive wave of adrenaline and your thoughts are racing, and you can control your thoughts, and you kind of, it stops being sort of this, if you can turn it from quite a fragile and insecure sort of little creature that's always putting yourself down, into this roaring animal that is just on fight, or you're not on fight, you're not on like the flight, you're on the fight. And if you can, when you can channel that at the right time, which I used to try and do during races, so that because that's what your animal brain is. It's your kind of your fight or flight or freeze. And if you know when you want the fight, then bring it. It's great, and it's really addictive. It's really, really addictive.
Excellent. It's been really interesting in this lockdown period, because I think that's brought out a lot of fight in some people and a lot of fright in some people. So how have you coped with the lockdown, being an athlete and having those kind of pressures put on you?
It's been hard. I've had a very turbulent year. I started the year, I was in hospital, and then I sort of came out and I started trying to get back into it. And obviously not being able to see coaches, not being able to use the gym, not being able to see sort of sports therapists and physios when you need, which I have needed. It's been challenging, definitely. And I know a lot of my friends as well, so the ones that have gone to American universities that are in the NCAAs, there's very strict coaching regulations, which have meant the coaches have not been able to send workouts to their athletes because they're not at university. So it goes against their sporting regulations, and they've really struggled because they've not even been receiving sessions, and they've not been allowed to receive sessions. So it's taken a lot of it's taken a lot of telling yourself, this is lockdown, I need to stop being as harsh on myself, maybe take this time for some lighter training, because realistically you can't sort of go at 100 miles ahead unless you found a way around lockdown, you found a way to use the track, you've got a gym at home or something. So it's being compromised, and knowing when to compromise, I think.
Yeah, interesting. So Terry, one of our viewers, has just mentioned this book. So the Chimpanzee Paradox. Sure, have you read it?
I've heard of it, and I've read quite a lot of reviews on it. Yes. Right.
So this book's actually signed by Ronnie O'Sullivan. So I actually got given this book by Ronnie, which is really cool. But it's funny, Terry actually just mentioned Steve Peters and the book, and how Ronnie O'Sullivan used it to win his world title. I think they must be in some kind of a business relationship or something. But Ronnie quote this book quite a bit, I think, in when he's talking about the World Championships and the successive World Championships. He talks about it quite a bit, but it's a great book for anyone out there that wants to read more about what Ben's referring to with regards to the reptilian brain and the chimpanzee and the logical computer brain. So it's certainly really, really good to be mindful of that. So thanks a lot, Terry. That's great. So Ben, when things don't go to plan, what about injury? How do you deal with injury setbacks? Because that's kind of outside your control. It's all very well knowing that you've got a race to go into, and you've got that adrenaline and you can control it. But what happens when it doesn't go to plan and you get injuries? How do you deal with setbacks?
That's been really challenging and something that was a problem to me. So after the season when I'd won my English schools, I was 16 and I'd done very well. And then the next season in May, I got an Achilles problem, And this is when I was talking about sort of knowing when to back off or knowing when to not let pressure get to you. I had a very Achilles pain, which it was a tendon problem. Like I think it was tendonitis, which tendinopathy. And I just ran on it and I ran on it and I didn't stop. And it was to the point where in between sets, I would ice my foot so that the pain would kind of go numb so I could do the next rep. And then in between reps, I would ice my foot. And I was at a training camp in Florida. And I think I really, really just let the pressure and almost the psychopathic instinct to just push through the pain get to me. And athletes have quite high pain thresholds. They tend to, I think. And often you can, for me, that pain, okay, I could push through it. It wasn't crippling. It wasn't absolutely debilitating. So it was fine. It was manageable. Whereas if someone else might have been feeling that pain, they might have thought, this is absolutely awful. I have to stop. And I just kept running on and running it and running on it until it just got very, very bad. And I had so many, I just had to take, I was put into a boot, and there was a lot of misdiagnosis. I ended up going, because it was so painful at one point, I went to A&E, which I actually think was the wrong thing, because they misdiagnosed it as a partial tear. So it was there was problems with my treatment of it, which further delayed me for a long time. Because they basically told me to do nothing, because I'd seen a doctor and an A&E doctor who had used ultrasound, and I told me it was a partial tear, which it wasn't. I think it was, I saw someone else and I think it was tendinosis or something, but I'm not really familiar with the terminology, so I might be saying some things wrong. But I was out for a very long time and the pain just did not go away. And then eventually I sort of started working with someone who said, no, you can't not do anything. You have to strengthen it and you have to build this back up. And that took a very long time. So there was a massive amount of time wasted that was just dead, where it didn't get worse, but it didn't get better. And then I started to gradually improve it. And it took about a year, the process, for me, which was awful. And then when I was coming out of it, I was thrown right into my A-levels. And how did I manage that? I think I refocused, and I'm very, very pleased with how I managed it, because I said to myself, okay, the athletic season's in a few weeks or a few months, and I've got A-levels. I could try and burn myself out on athletics and maybe compromise on my A-levels. Do I want to do that? No, so I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to focus on school. I got my grades and I got my university, and I'm really, really grateful for that. But now I'm at a place where, okay, now you've missed like a season and a half. I now need to sort of get back into it. And it's the getting back into it that I found so, so difficult. And I'm still really struggling with. As I said, I started running again after I came out of hospital earlier this year. And I was in the gym, and then my knees got very painful, my calves, and now I've got hamstring. Everything just seems to hurt. And not having a coach or not having access to people to try and help me through that has also been really, really frustrating. And I know I've kind of just spoken about lots and lots of things, and it probably sounds very hectic, because it is hectic. That's how it feels as the athlete in times like this. And when you have an injury, it feels like there's a million different things buzzing around your head. You're being told lots of different words by lots of different people that you probably won't understand. And as a junior athlete, it's really, really difficult. It really is. Yeah. And I fully empathize why so many juniors struggle, because you get injured and then you get lots of people telling you different things. And then you get told you need to do well in school, you need to do this. And then you start thinking, if I'm not working with athletics, what's my backup? So then that adds more school pressure. And then when you're injured as well, you have a lot more free time, which you see friends, and your social life goes up. And I found that when I was injured, my social life actually got better. And it's just like there's a million different balls you're trying to juggle, and injury just seems to make 1,000 more balls. It's so stressful.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We've got a question from a viewer, if that's okay, Ben. So Terry is asking if you do any other sports, basically.
Yeah. So I started off played football for 6 years, and then I did rugby. I did rugby ever since I was younger, and then up until year 9, and I like smashed my collarbone playing rugby and dislocated my shoulder. So I stopped playing rugby after that. I was a bit traumatized, I think, and then I focused on athletics. I did stop other sports in around year 10 when I started to get good at athletics.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure whether I made the right decision there, but it seemed at the time to be the only decision possible, because football, I kept twisting my ankle and things like that, and it just set you back. But there's a massive social side to football. I'm not really sure. I think maybe Stan would be better placed to say whether you should continue with other sports, because I didn't, and I don't know what the pros and cons of that really.
What's your view on that, Stan?
Yeah, I think the whole idea with allowing, or rather facilitating young people to go into different sports, it's looking at a holistic development, because different sports would bring about different stimuli in the developing body. And so the thinking there, the assumption there is, if we expose them to different sports, not only do their bodies have different avenues to develop, but they also acquire different skills, sports skills, movement skills that are found in different sports. And like if they just focused on one sport, they would only develop the movement patterns and the physiological development that is afforded only in that sport, and therefore would miss out on what other sports would offer. So that's the general idea with having juniors being exposed to different sports. And yes, I agree with that, and I fully subscribe to it. Specialization, as for young people to specialize too soon, it creates a situation where they miss out, on a more holistic development from a physical as well as mental, development, because of the challenges and the development opportunities that different sports, are able to afford, give them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Thanks, Dan. So Ben, one of the things we like to do for viewers is just to leave them with your top 3 tips with regards to what you found most useful developing as a junior athlete. I'm sure there's other people that might be junior athletes themselves and might be parents of junior athletes. But what would you say the top 3 tips are of your career so far?
I would say firstly, I would say you have to trust yourself and trust the people around you, and have faith. Often you can't see things straight away, and often you might not know things that are happening. And it's all about trusting yourself. I remember I said to Stan once that I was like, oh, I've not, I think it was something along the lines of, I've not hit this time. I want to run more races. I want to do more. I want to see this happening. I need to know that I'm in shape before English schools. I said, I need to know. And I remember his response was very much like, but you do know, you don't trust yourself, because I knew I was fit and I knew I was in a really good place, but I hadn't had that sort of external validation. And I think as a junior athlete, the prospect of external validation is very, very enticing. And especially as you're young, and that's everything that somebody telling you, oh, you've done well. And often it's very hard to find that within yourself and to know, oh, I'm really fit. fit.
Yeah.
So it's learning to trust yourself, and that's a long process, and that's something that probably I certainly haven't mastered yet. And it will go on throughout your whole life, I assume. It's kind of managing your own, you're trusting yourself and your own faith. And then my second point would be to work, and this is very cliched, but to work smart and not hard, because my problems seem to arise when I did really, really well and I ended the season on this massive high. So I thought, oh, now I've kind of achieved this. I need to do more. I need to do more and more and more. And I went from kind of, I think I overdid it training wise. And I remember I would kind of think, oh, I need to do this, and I need to do, like, on top of all of my training, I need to do circuits every day, and I need to kind of obscenely watch what I eat. And it all became very, very rigorous, but too much. I wasn't overly disciplined, but I thought in pursuit of being disciplined, I was overdoing it. And it's definitely about working smart, sort of. I look back and I think I did well off of sort of I was a junior athlete and I was young, and 2, 3, 4 days a week training. That the 3-day weeks was actually very beneficial to me. And I think one of my biggest mistakes was somehow looking at other people and thinking, oh, you're doing 7 sessions a week. Why am I not doing that? And sort of thinking, well, I have to do that. And then when I did, I kind of got a rude awakening, and I realized I didn't need to overdo it. 3 sessions was enough. 3 sessions was more than enough. It let me grow. It let me have the time that I needed. It didn't put too much stress on me. And at the time, I didn't see that. And if I could talk to myself and say something, I would say, you don't need to overdo it. Like, you don't need to train obscene amounts because other people are, or get distracted and look at what other people are doing and think, wow, they're doing 2 sessions a day, or they're going on warm weather training camps. Why am I not doing that? Or they're doing 3 races a week. Like, why am I not doing that? It's trusting yourself. And then finally, again, another cliche, but as I said, the extrinsic motivation comes from your enjoyment foremost, and you have to enjoy it and genuinely love it. I love the sport, and I love watching Diamond Leagues. I will sit up and watch the heats, the semis and the finals of every single race at World Champs, from sort of the 100 meters to the 10,000 meters. I'll watch all the field events. I will watch sort of YouTube clips of old races. And you have to love the sport. You have to just absolutely have a passion for it and enjoy it so much. And also allow yourself to enjoy it, because you will do better when you do.
Yeah.
Definitely. Brilliant. That's been great. It's been really good. I think there's some valuable lessons in athletics as well as life there from Ben Lloyd. So it's been really great having you on the show, Ben. So thank you very much for coming. And if we don't speak to you before, hopefully you get away and have a fantastic gap year traveling.
I will try. I don't think I'll quite get let out of the country at this rate, but I'll try.
Hopefully out. Next challenge. Excellent. Stan, do you have anything else to add to Ben's magnificent roundup there?
Yeah, well, maybe just a word to Ben himself. He's a very, I know it's a tired term. He's a very talented young man, and the sort of talent that he's got, for me, working with him, is really his mind. He has so much mental resource in there, and the track needs you, get yourself sorted, get your body back in shape, and continue pursuing, the love of your love for track. You've got amazing physical resources, a typical physical resources for 400-meter hurdles. And you know, for you, it's an advantage that you have fantastic rhythm, easy to get into a rhythm and learn. So all these things go very well for you, and get yourself sorted, and at some point get back on the track.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Ben, hopefully we'll see some big things of you in the future. I'm sure we will do.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
It'll be very exciting, very exciting. And Ben, I definitely think you're on the right track with a lot of the stuff you've been mentioning there. It's something that Terry just commented that Des mentioned the same thing about. So let's have a look. So Terry said that one of the common things is by working smart, not hard, so not burning yourself out. I think it was Des was mentioning that. He was talking about hurdles on Wednesday show as well. So it sounds like you mature well before your time. So it's certainly great to hear that, and someone so young as well, which is great. So it's been great. Thank you so much for joining us, Ben, and we wish you all the best. No, it's no problem at all. Hopefully we'll get you back on the show at some stage. Maybe when you're on the beach in Malaysia, you can do a little tour around your hotel and stuff. But yeah, that'd be good. Stan, great to have you on the show again. Thank you very much for your time. And as always, if you've got any further questions, or you've enjoyed anything you've seen tonight, you'd like to see a bit more of it, then we'd love to be able to hear back from you. So if you're watching live or you're watching the replays, just put some comments in the box below, somewhere down here somewhere, and we'd love to hear back. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'd also love to hear your comments as well, and get involved. We've got another session on Wednesday this week coming, where we've got some big names coming as well. But it's going to be difficult to top this young man for this evening. So it's going to be exciting to see who we've got lined up next time. But Stan is your man. He's got the guests all lined up, and a lot of them have things to do, or they've had injuries in the past, so it makes them relevant to discussing from our clinical point of view as well. So maybe we'll talk a bit more about injuries next time as well, which has been great. Ben's hardly had any, so it's a bit boring to talk to you really on that front. But it's been exciting to talk to him about how he's got to where he's got to. So I'm rambling on, but for now it's bye-bye from me.
Bye-bye from me.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.